Good morning and welcome to Rising. Oh, what a show we have for you today, this fine Tuesday morning, where I'm joined by Lindsay, per usual. Nice to see you, Lindsay.
We kind of matched today.
Do we? We kind of matched yesterday, actually. You didn't
Did we?
say anything.
Oh, no. What did I?
Both in, like, gray.
Oh,
You're
wow.
wearing that gray dress.
It matches the dreary weather. We're over this
dreary.
coldness.
It is dreary. It's
rainy
dark
day.
in here. We see nothing.
Coming up on Rising, some low poll numbers for President Trump. I'll be discussing that in my lens today.
Plus, a new report from the FBI sources details the state of the agency under Director Kash Patel and offers some heavy criticism.
And a new study has found that preteens who own smartphones are likelier than their peers to suffer from obesity, depression, and even insufficient sleep. But first, Robby, what's on your radar?
Let's get to it. Now, the mainstream media has finally caught on to the fact that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, who, by the way, was for some reason Kamala Harris's choice to be the Veep, is complicit in ignoring a massive welfare fraud scheme perpetrated in his state by largely Somali immigrants. The New York Times is no longer ignoring this story. They covered it in a devastating report that alleges, quote, fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system on Tim Walz's watch. It's a bombshell story. Let's take one example of the fraud. A nonprofit called Feeding Our Future took government money during COVID that was supposed to go toward buying meals for hungry children. Instead, it went toward luxury cars, even real estate projects abroad. That's right, the fraudster sent American taxpayer dollars out of this country. Of the 86 people charged with the fraud, all but 8 of them were Somalians. And here's where it gets worse. According to whistleblowers, state agents were tacitly approving the fraud because the Somalians have become a powerful constituency in the state of Minnesota. Democrats didn't want to risk losing their support. And Tim Walz himself has admitted that these programs erred on the side of generosity during the pandemic. Well, he was very generous with your money. How nice of him. Quote, the programs are set up to move the money to the people, said Tim Walz in an interview. The programs are set up to improve people's lives, and in many cases, the criminals find the loopholes. It's like he's saying, yeah, we got scammed. Oh, well, we had good intentions. Should be noted, of course, that the New York Times did not break this story. The conservative writer and activist Christopher Rufo got to it first, but because it is a legitimate story, the mainstream media has been guilted into covering it. Now, not all liberal commentators seem to be drawing the same lessons as the New York Times, however. Here were the ladies of The View, redirecting the issue from the failings of Tim Walz to the failings of, well, I bet you can guess who.
Here's what's interesting, because if you're upset about fraud, in 2018, a judge ruled that you know who had to pay $25 million due to his fraudulent university. In February 2024, a New York judge found him, his sons, and his organization liable for fraud. Then 3 months later, he was found guilty on 34 counts of fraud.
Really, Whoopi? We can't talk about something other than something wrong a Democrat did, rather, for more than 2 seconds before you bring up Donald Trump. It's exactly this kind of blithe dismissal of real problems that have occurred under the watch of Democrats in blue states and blue cities that has caused progressive media to alienate middle America and drive them into the arms of Trump's Republican Party. If you don't think the GOP has the right policy prescriptions, make that case. But don't try to make the case that Democrats like Tim Walz can be trusted to run a city or a state or the country at large. Massive welfare fraud is his record. He let it happen on his watch, and he's still making excuses for it. Progressive governance can't survive such massive failures. Defunding the police, allowing rampant welfare abuse, taxing the wealthy so aggressively that they actually move away, that is the left progressive track record, and it's a recipe for disaster. You were chucking along with Whoopi there.
You know, it's so funny because you get so annoyed when Whoopi brings up Donald Trump in moments that are unnecessary, but Donald Trump brings up President Biden in moments that are always unnecessary, including every time there's a failure under his watch. So I just want to make sure we're balancing the scales. I think Whoopi, as a commentator, can point out that his Trump University was...
My shoes are untied. You know who else had untied shoes? Donald Trump.
But just because she brought it up doesn't make it untrue. It was still a fraudulent university. But I just want to point out...
It's a different kind of fraud.
Oh, we're comparing scales and levels of fraud. Either way.
Yes, that is an example of the government deciding that a business arrangement between Trump Enterprises,
and people that got scammed.
No, let me finish.
Okay.
And private individuals that they got scammed. They willingly gave their money to Trump or Trump Enterprises for some purpose, and nobody made them do it, and they felt like they didn't get their money's worth. Boo-hoo. This is an example of money being stolen from the public, from taxpayers. That money is coercively collected by the government and then was given to people. Your money was taken and given to someone else for nefarious purposes. That's very different than a judge or a government agency deciding that a private transaction we make, they say is fraudulent.
Fine, but I think we can bring it up. But
It's
let's stick
real
to the
fraud
point.
versus fraud.
Let's stick to the point. So. In Minnesota, what happened is egregious, right? There's millions of dollars that were used for causes that were supposed to go to homelessness and other things that just didn't go there. So that is the worst kind of person doing that, and anybody who did that should be charged with a crime. My bigger issue yesterday was that Minnesota has the largest population of Somali immigrants of any state in our country. We're talking about like 25,000 people. So you said 87 people minus 8 of them are actually not Somali that were part of this. So we're talking about, because I did the math, 0.25% of the Somalis in Minnesota are committing crimes. So does that mean that we should now be targeting the entire Somali immigrant population?
Didn't say that.
No, but the president is suggesting that. And so I want to point out for PPP fraud and paycheck fraud, because Walz did respond to this. He said he didn't respond in the moment, or he responded slowly because he was trying to hand out money like everybody in leadership was, both governors, mayors, and federal government during the time of the pandemic was rushing to try to get people help. That's why we have over $200 billion of these programs that have already been abused by both Americans and people across the board. It's not good. In 2017, for example,
that's why I was against it from the beginning.
Fine,
I
but
said, don't do this.
It happened. And in 2017, 26 people from the Orthodox Jewish community in Lakewood, New Jersey, were arrested on charges, just like these Somali charges, of welfare and public assistance fraud. They scammed the system, all 26 of them. I don't think that we should
Why are we
isolate.
calling out the Jews?
We're not. I'm saying I don't think we should isolate. My point is right here. I don't think we should isolate the Orthodox Jewish community because 26 bad actors behaved badly in New Jersey. Just like I don't think we should isolate, like the president is doing, the Somali community because less than 80% of bad actors, which is 0.25% of the community there, are bad actors in a certain state, and so they should not be isolated from migrating.
Okay, but I find it...
And so I don't think we should target these attacks unless you agree that then we should look at New Jersey and say what's going on there. No, which is bad actors doing bad things that go in line with the $200 billion we're missing from these programs over the years since the pandemic, from both Americans that were committing fraudulent activities and people that were not American. These programs were flawed. We talk about that all the time, but don't point to one community and say we're going to retaliate against you when nothing was done to any other communities. And I can go on a list of other communities that have done different things.
I don't think there should be retaliation against anyone who was not accused of or convicted of a crime.
Yes.
But Trump is talking about where people will be allowed to immigrate from in the future, which is perfectly valid in my view. Also, the relevancy here is that Tim Walz's government feared the political power of this constituency and then didn't want to punish the bad actors in their midst for fear of blowback from the broader Somali community. That's in the New York Times.
Yeah, but that's not what Tim Walz is responding.
New York Times says.
Tim Walz can come speak for himself. He was on Sunday shows. I'm sure he's going to be on next Sunday shows. He said that since then he has created anti-fraud task forces. He said that he's ordered audits on all these people. So to say he's doing nothing and threw his hands up because he wanted these votes is reported by the New York Times. I'm assuming somebody on his team must have mentioned
I can't believe he was this close to being the vice president.
He literally is defending himself.
He
And just like the president made poor choices during the pandemic, both Biden and Trump, Tim Walz is saying, that wasn't my priority to get out fraud during
that money in the first place. Thomas Massie, by the way, now number one enemy to Donald Trump. He voted against it. He was wise to do so, the CARES Act. That was a huge mistake. We've just took public money and threw it around.
Well, there's over 3,000 different defendants that are in cases right now that are U.S. residents that have defrauded the system during the pandemic. So make sure that we're also looking at everybody, all 3,000 of them, saying, who are you related to? Let's punish them too. Because that's what you're saying, or that's what the president is saying by punishing the Somali community for these bad actors.
No, he's saying there might not be as much immigration from Somalia.
Yes, but he's not doing that for any other community, and this happened across the board, is what I'm telling you, for fact.
A report from current and former FBI agents is slamming the Bureau's director, Kash Patel, in the hot seat. We'll be right back with that.